Valerie as a co-founder and co-chair of Imagine. We say and we understand in this world that businesses are all about making money. But, many will say also that CSR, purpose, ESRs are secondary to any business. Is that true, or there's a game-changing, shifting in businesses approach?
Yeah, such a great question. Thanks for that. It used to be true, and it's still sometimes true. But the reality is that there has been a consciousness shift, and that the definition of what business is and what a successful business is has changed. And more importantly than that, the recognition by investors and by the CEOs and their leadership teams that the game has changed is clear. So when we first started Imagine, and we described ourselves as how many other companies are starting to describe themselves as a net positive company that succeeds by giving more than it takes. And we're also a venture and a foundation. And this was built off of some of the leading work of some of my colleagues and co-founders, Kees, who's on this panel, is a co-founder of Imagine, and also Paul Pullman with Unilever, who you also heard from. But what we saw was that many companies do not buy into the former premise of ESG, CSR, PR. And why? What they're seeing is it's not about the why guy, purpose puffery. It's actually about saying the leading edge of what a successful business has moved from purpose and sustainability on the sidelines to being able to say the purpose of business is long-term, multi-stakeholder, putting what the world's needs are at the core of your business model and where you have power to change it. And we don't have to make up these ideas of, well, what is it that the world needs? Humanity has come together and it said we have these global goals. And as we are talking about in this conversation, we look at climate change, we look at the twin parallel of that of inequality. We collectively, and I'm talking about humanity at the moment, are awake to the impacts of how we've been making and taking from the environment and what we've been doing in terms of the impact of human lives. And COVID was an incredible pause that is a bit of a breakdown to a breakthrough on that. So what we are seeing actually is a fundamental acceleration of business as being part of the solution providers, not just don't do bad things, but saying, and I'm going to give a couple of very clear examples on this. So Imagine is saying we're going to help those businesses and those CEOs who are human beings leading their companies to put purpose and sustainability at the core of their strategy to help drive the change they need to be to create a race to the top. What we're also seeing is the leading edge of business is not even just I don't do bad things or I'm solving social problems. It's that I actually see myself as responsible for changing the system. And within food and land use, as Michael said, that is so critical. If you look at that in terms of its necessariness for a systems change. So what we see now, when we've got people who are now not just saying we are about being positive, or if you think about a goosebump moment, Walmart, Doug, the CEO, saying Walmart is here to be a regenerative company. Then they put data behind that with Project Gigaton, quantifying the impact. Mark, the CEO of Nestle, making an announcement within our group with saying they are putting 3.2 billion Swiss francs to make Nestle net zero by 2025. 1.2 billion of that is helped to spark regenerative agriculture and across the supply chain. And importantly, it's approved by the shareholders. So this notion of saying that the company is going to just be able to put purpose in ESG to actually say we're putting our money where our mouth is. Another important distinction that we're seeing here, we're seeing it's going from small to all. And what I mean by that is you see companies like McCain. McCain is one of the largest, it is actually the largest manufacturer of frozen potato projects. So instead of putting it on the sidelines and saying, oh, look, we're doing this little thing on acreage, McCain is saying we are sourcing 100% of our potatoes from regenerative agriculture. 100%. That's not something on the margins on that. This is at the mainstream. So why are we seeing that? We believe that there's science. Human beings care, and the human beings who are leading businesses also have the science and the data. I remember the first time that I heard the very popularized fact of we only have between 60 to 100 harvests left. I mean, that's a shocking fact, right? We only potentially have 60 to 100 harvests left because of how we've been growing. So if our soils fail, then we don't have the raw materials. I first heard that from Hanukkah, who is leading food and beverage at Unilever. So this notion of who is awake and aware and is saying that's not okay to happen on my watch. We are together going to put this at the core of our business, and where we can't do it alone, we're going to go in partnership, in collaboration across a value chain to then change the system together. And I know that several of our panel members are in doing that, and Unilever, of course, is a leader on that. Live Kindly is embodying that in many ways. So that's the new zeitgeist that we're seeing, is at the core of business and collaborating to do it together, and none too soon, because that's exactly the change that we need to see.